just when Prince Harry believed the walls around him could not close in any further, whispers began circulating through royal circles that Meghan Markle had allegedly taken the one step he never imagined she would take. Not a public statement, not another carefully crafted interview, not another Hollywood appearance. Something far more explosive. A private meeting. A meeting with Queen Camilla. And according to the rumors spreading through elite royal circles, that meeting happened while King Charles was quietly making a decision that would leave Harry completely outside one of the most sensitive discussions in the monarchy's future. The timing could not have been more devastating. For months, Harry had reportedly been clinging to the hope that despite all the drama, all the interviews, all the accusations, and all the years of public warfare, there was still a small pathway back into the royal fold. Not necessarily as a senior working royal, not even as a trusted family member, but at least as a son, at least as someone whose opinion still mattered. Then everything changed. Because while Harry was allegedly focusing on repairing fractured relationships, Meghan was rumored to be playing an entirely different game. A game built on survival, a game built on influence, a game built on understanding one brutal reality. The royal family was moving forward without them, and if Meghan wanted any future connection to the institution, she would have to find a completely new route. That route, according to palace whispers, led directly to Camilla, the very woman Harry spent years criticizing, the very woman he publicly blamed for some of the deepest wounds in his life, the very woman he never expected his wife to approach. And that is where the story becomes explosive. Sources close to royal observers began noticing unusual movements behind the scenes. Nothing public, nothing official, no photographs, no announcements, just small details, tiny clues, the kind of clues that become impossible to ignore once people start connecting them. Suddenly, Meghan's public language appeared softer. Suddenly, discussions about reconciliation began appearing in unexpected places. Suddenly, there was less emphasis on confrontation and more emphasis on understanding. Coincidence? Some insiders didn't think so. They believed a quiet communication channel had opened, and if true, it represented one of the most stunning strategic pivots in recent royal history, because Meghan reportedly understood something Harry did not. The balance of power inside the monarchy had changed. King Charles remained the king. Prince William remained the future. But Camilla had become one of the most influential figures behind palace walls. She was no longer simply the controversial figure many remembered from decades ago. She was now a gatekeeper, a decision maker, a protector of the institution. And according to the rumors, Meghan wanted access to that gate. Meanwhile, Harry was facing a completely different nightmare. Because while whispers of Meghan's alleged outreach spread through royal circles, reports began surfacing that Charles was restructuring sensitive discussions about the monarchy's future. Discussions involving succession planning, family roles, future responsibilities, long-term institutional stability. And one name reportedly wasn't appearing in those conversations anymore. Harry, that realization allegedly hit him harder than anything before. Not because he expected to become king. Everyone knows that was never realistic. But because exclusion sends a message, a powerful message, a message that says the institution no longer sees you as part of its future planning. And according to insiders, that message landed like a bomb. The emotional fallout was immediate. Friends of the monarchy began noticing a dramatic shift. The optimism that occasionally appeared after private calls with Charles seemed to disappear. The hope that reconciliation was progressing suddenly looked fragile, because Harry now faced a question he never wanted to ask. Had the family already moved on without him? Had William, Charles, and the palace machine quietly accepted a future where Harry existed entirely outside the inner circle? And if that future was already being built, what exactly was Meghan trying to accomplish? That's where palace gossip became even more intense. Some believed Meghan was attempting to secure a separate relationship with the institution itself. Not through Harry, not through William, not through old family dynamics, through Camilla. A direct line, a fresh start, a completely new strategy. One insider allegedly described it as political rather than emotional. Not about love, not about forgiveness, not about family, about influence, about relevance, about positioning. And suddenly, Harry found himself trapped in the middle of a scenario he never expected. The woman he married appeared willing to engage with the very people he spent years attacking. The family he left behind appeared increasingly comfortable comfortable operating without him, and every day the gap seemed to grow wider. What made the situation even more painful was the symbolism, because succession discussions aren't merely meetings, they're statements. They reveal who matters, who is trusted, who is included, and who is standing outside the room. By early summer, the atmosphere surrounding Harry reportedly became impossible to ignore. Observers described a man caught between two worlds, too royal for Hollywood, too controversial for the monarchy, too famous to disappear, yet increasingly disconnected from the institution that gave him his identity. And as whispers of Meghan's secret Camilla connection continued spreading, Harry reportedly found himself confronting a brutal possibility. What if Meghan had already accepted a reality he was still fighting? What if she understood that the road back would never go through him? What if she had decided the only way forward was to build entirely new alliances? The questions multiplied, the rumors intensified, and Buckingham Palace remained silent. No denials, no confirmations, just silence. The kind of silence that drives speculation into overdrive. Because inside royal history, silence has often been the loudest message of all. And as this extraordinary drama continues unfolding behind palace walls and Montecito gates, one mystery remains unanswered. Did Meghan secretly make peace with the woman Harry once considered an enemy? Or is something even bigger happening behind closed doors? Because if these whispers are true, the real shock isn't that Meghan met Camilla. The real shock is that while Harry was looking backward, everyone else may have already started planning the future without him. What happened next allegedly pushed this royal drama into territory that even longtime palace insiders struggled to recognize. Because while the headlines focused on Meghan's rumored connection to Camilla and Harry's growing isolation from key royal discussions, another story was quietly unfolding behind the scenes. A story involving trust, a story involving power, and most importantly, a story involving who King Charles believed could actually protect the monarchy during one of the most fragile periods of his reign. As whispers continued circulating through royal circles, insiders began claiming that Charles had become increasingly frustrated by the endless cycle of conflict surrounding his younger son. Every attempted reconciliation seemed to generate another controversy. Every private gesture appeared to become public speculation. Every effort to lower tension somehow produced another wave of headlines. The pattern had reportedly become impossible to ignore. And inside palace walls, patterns matter. They become evidence. They become decisions. They become policy. According to rumors spreading among royal observers, Charles eventually reached a painful conclusion. The institution could no longer organize its future around uncertainty. The monarchy required stability, predictability, discipline, and that meant focusing entirely on the individuals who were actively carrying out royal responsibilities rather than those operating from thousands of miles away in California. It was a shift that reportedly strengthened Prince William's influence more than ever before. Suddenly, discussions that once might have included consideration for Harry's eventual return appeared to be moving in a completely different direction. For Harry, the emotional consequences were devastating. Sources close to royal commentators suggested he was increasingly aware that every year spent away from Britain made the road back more difficult. Relationships cooled, trust erodes, new structures form, new routines develop. Eventually, people stopped waiting for someone to return and simply learn how to function without them. That realization reportedly haunted him, because for the first time, Harry may have been forced to confront a terrifying possibility. The monarchy wasn't punishing him anymore. It simply wasn't depending on him. That distinction changed everything. Meanwhile, rumors surrounding Meghan and Camilla refused to disappear. In fact, they intensified. Some claim that what began as a simple outreach effort had evolved into something much larger. Not an alliance exactly, not a friendship, but perhaps an understanding, a recognition that open warfare benefited nobody. Whether those whispers were true or not hardly mattered anymore because perception had already taken over. The mere suggestion that Meghan could communicate with Camilla sent shockwaves through royal watchers. After years of public conflict, such a development felt almost unimaginable, and that was exactly why people couldn't stop talking about it. Back in Montecito, speculation suggested the situation between Harry and Meghan had become increasingly tense. Friends and observers allegedly noticed a growing divergence in priorities. Harry appeared consumed by questions about family, identity, and legacy. Meghan appeared focused on rebuilding influence, relevance, and long-term opportunities. Neither objective was necessarily wrong, but they were no longer the same objective. And when two people begin chasing different futures, the distance between them can become impossible to ignore. The symbolism surrounding Charles's reported decision was equally powerful. Being excluded from succession-related discussions wasn't about legal status. Harry's place in the line had always been clear. This was about influence, about access, about proximity to the people shaping tomorrow. If those conversations were indeed happening without him, it signaled something deeper than a temporary disagreement. It suggested an institutional acceptance that Harry's future existed outside the operational framework of the monarchy. That reality reportedly hit harder than any newspaper headline ever could. As summer approached, all eyes turned toward upcoming public appearances. Every event suddenly carried enormous significance. Every photograph was analyzed, every expression became a clue. Royal commentators speculated endlessly about whether Harry would appear confident or defeated, hopeful or resigned. Because beneath the gossip and speculation sat a very human question. How does someone cope when the world they left behind keeps moving forward without them? The answer remained unclear. What was clear, however, was that the balance of power had shifted dramatically. Charles appeared focused on protecting the institution. William appeared firmly positioned as the future. Camilla's influence seemed stronger than ever. And Meghan, according to the rumors, had recognized those changing dynamics before anyone else. If true, that realization may have led to the most shocking move of all. Not fighting the system, not attacking the palace, not demanding concessions, but quietly adapting to a new reality. And that left Harry standing at the center of the storm, caught between the family he left, the life he built, and a future that seemed to be taking shape without his participation. Whether reconciliation remains possible is the question hanging over every palace corridor and every Montecito headline. But one thing appears certain. The battle is no longer about returning to the past. The battle is about who will have influence over what comes next. And if the whispers surrounding Meghan, Camilla, and Charles are even partially true, then the next chapter of this royal saga may prove far more surprising than anyone expected.